Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is our 20th episode on Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. We'd love to hear from you. Send your comments and feedback to team@thkp.co.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Hello, Matt. I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I am doing all right. We're here again at the end. Welcome to the end.
At the end of an absolute tome. I don't know if I would say this is as much of a tome as Gödel Escher Bach.
No,
but it was quite long.
That was epic.
That was super epic. Super epic.
Well, also, like, the ground traversed was so expansive. It was really...
I think that book is one of the most ambitious books I've ever read.
Ever written.
And I think, you know, it's like you think of ambitious books, like Moby Dick, I think is an ambitious book. Like the scope of that novel is insane. Mm-hmm. But Gödel Escher Bach, it's like the stuff he was covering, sort of like, you know, what it means, what knowledge means, and like, you know, how to define just human consciousness and all these crazy things. Like, it's very deep.
Yeah, and it is surprising to me how often I think about that book, because at a surface level, it sounds like the kind of thing that would never affect your life in any practical way. Yeah. And I actually do wind up thinking about it kind of a lot.
It's funny, like the book is called The Eternal Golden Braid, or that's the subtitle of the book. Mm-hmm. And you do start to realize that the topics in that book link everything together. And, you know, also with like large language models, I feel like this type of thinking has sort of been brought back to the forefront because, I mean, in some ways, the book is like a prediction of AI and large language models. And so I think that's part of it. But it's also just like the way knowledge is linked. And so anyway, I think about it all the time. But we're talking about a different book today.
Yes, we're talking about Elon. We're sunsetting Elon. So so our first chapter in this section, AI for cars. Is that right?
I thought it was Christmas Capers, the chapter before that. So
okay, great. Yes. No, Christmas Capers. That's right. I didn't remember because actually the episode I just edited, it teased Christmas Capers, and I forgot that we're fresh, like we're right at the edge. We're back up to real time. We're doing it live. Christmas Capers. Okay, but so Christmas Capers. This was a hilarious story.
You know, this is one of those stories where I found Elon Musk to be kind of cute. You know, like there's like these brief periods in this book where I find him to be appealing. Like, oh yeah, I'd love to work for this guy. Yeah. Because he just kind of has these sort of like flamboyant and cavalier attitudes about various things. Like, so the caper that this chapter is discussing is the movement of Twitter's servers. Right. Like their actual server racks, the physical machines that are sort of underpinning the entire service. I guess they were in a place that was super expensive and they wanted to move it out. Yeah, so
they were in San Fran, and I think they wanted to close out of that. Colo or whatever.
Exactly. San Francisco, I'm sure, is massively expensive to just have a bunch of like idle server racks. And I think they were moving it to like Oregon or something. Or I can't remember.
Portland,
Yeah. But anyway, Musk, he refers to it as like a mission impossible. He's just like going into the server room, climbing under the floor, because, you know, server rooms have like an area under the floor for ventilation and things like that. And he was like unplugging random Twitter server racks and then just telling his peeps to like move them into a truck. And, you know, all these people, like he asked his team at Twitter, like, oh, can I do this? And they were like, oh, it's going to take weeks. You're going to have to pay all these contractors who specialize in these like very specific, you know, safely moving server type things. And Elon Musk just waltzed right in and like disconnected them and put them in a truck.
Well, so it's funny because the person that he was talking to, this manager or whoever was ostensibly responsible for these servers, at Twitter, like from the old guard, was
Yeah.
like, okay, like I can get this picture of the server room to you in a week. And he was like, my head is exploding right now. Like the whole project should take a week. And you're saying
Right.
that you can't even get me a picture of the room within a week?
Yes. And this is the type of thing where I just find myself like hard agreeing with Elon Musk. It's like, come on, we're literally moving physical things, just move them. Although, we will talk later in the chapter about how these types of things can go wrong. But anyway, yeah, there's a brief interlude. The reason this chapter is called Christmas Capers is because it's December 2022, and there's this brief interlude where they celebrate Christmas. And so Elon Musk is with his brother Kimball, and man, Kimball once again just like shining through a beacon of like good humanity and sort of calling Elon out on his bullshit. He basically lectures him about his tweets, his Pelosi and Fauci tweets, which we discussed before. Elon basically retweeted some kind of like completely conspiracy theory about the guy who beat Nancy Pelosi's husband with a hammer. And he also tweeted, what was the Fauci tweet that was like so stupid?
Well, there was prosecute slash my pronouns are prosecute slash Fauci.
Yeah, which is just like dumb. And Kimball called him out. Kimball was like, "Don't do that. It's stupid." And he also like yelled at his little cronies, which I just
underlings.
which I just like. This whole book is basically a celebration of Kimball Musk, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like he's the real hero.
Yeah, he says, "Stop falling for weird shit." Like he's just like he just says what needs to be said.
Yeah, it's funny because you think about the Musk family, and I shouldn't say it's funny because it's sad. Like their father is like a complete psycho. Like he's literally lost his mind, it seems. And I'm sure Kimball is sort of telling Elon like, don't go down that path. Like don't start spouting this crazy nonsense.
Yeah, it's like I see where I can literally see where this road ends. It's not good.
Yeah, exactly. They talk about regrets, and Elon says he regrets stabbing himself in the eye.
Yeah,
which I thought was funny, and he does have a tendency to shoot himself in the foot. Then they go back to moving these server racks. They move 700 server racks in 3 days, which I'm thinking to myself like, how many I realize Twitter is a massive service, but 700 racks, like each rack is a ton of machines, right?
I would guess, yeah.
So anyway, I should have like researched this and figured out.
And that's not even their only system. But from the sense that they give in the book, this was kind of their original and their main data center.
Right. They do have some issues because these servers have PII, personally identifiable information on them, which there's a lot of legal ramifications to physically moving PII, and they basically don't adhere to any of that. Like you're supposed to delete PII before moving server racks and things like that, and
that's fascinating to me. I wonder where that comes from. Like who passed that law? Like.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had to delete the information. I just thought you needed to like sort of treat it carefully. But in any case, they don't adhere to any of this. They basically break these rules, partially just because they don't know about them. But they do end up moving 700 server racks in 3 days. Which is pretty much do it. And this is what I was kind of getting at is apparently there were a bunch of these hard-coded references to the old servers. So like a bunch of shit does break. And it is funny because, you heard from the outside about the instability at Twitter. And it's literally because Elon went in and like literally ripped the plug out of the wall on the servers, And then there's, you talked about these 700 racks in 3 days. They said that the previous record at that facility had been moving 30 in a month. Yeah.
It's like...
it is a testament to Elon's he just gets shit done, and he gets shit done by like ignoring rules and best practices. But sometimes it makes sense to ignore that shit. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
James Musk got paid $1,000 per server rack. So this dude made a cool $700,000 in 3 days.
Over the course of like a month. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, 3 days. Well, yeah, probably.
Well, but yeah, but you know, but no, I mean, because I guess it was from Christmas to New Year's. That's like the timeline when essentially all of this happened.
Yeah. It's like here we all are, you know, scrabbling for change, and this dude's making $700,000 just by moving a bunch of shit. There was one other funny thing, or actually two other things I wanted to mention about this chapter. One is they're celebrating New Year's or something, and Elon Musk chooses to watch Demolition Man. I just thought that was like a funny little detail. Great film.
I've never seen it,
American masterpiece. I remember there was this scene where he like goes to the bathroom and he's like, "What are these 3 seashells?" And it kind of became this like running joke for like decades, where everyone would talk about 3 seashells whenever anyone went to the bathroom.
You know what? Actually, I have seen this movie, because this is the one where he's like from modern times, but he like wakes up in the future or something.
Yes.
Or
yeah, exactly.
Like
I mean, the plot is ludicrous, to use a Big Lebowski reference, but he basically is frozen cryogenically for some reason. I don't even remember why. And they wake him up in order to fight this like master criminal who I want to say is Dennis Rodman, the bull.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be right.
The bad boy from the Bulls. But yeah, I could be wrong about that. I'm probably like conflating several different movies. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention about this chapter was Elon sort of has his like aviator moment. Like at the, have you ever seen the movie Aviator? About the guy?
No, I don't think so.
It's about the dude who started Trans World Airlines. I think it was Ted Turner, and it's sort of about his spiral into insanity, or at least that's sort of part of the film. Mm-hmm. And at the very end of the film, it's Leonardo DiCaprio just saying "the way of the future." Like he's just like repeating "the way of the future" over and over again, because this is just something Ted Turner would say throughout the film. You know, they'd ask him about like the technology he was messing with for planes, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's the way of the future." And so to sort of depict his spiral into insanity, they just had Leonardo DiCaprio like staring at the camera and repeatedly saying "the way of the future." Mm-hmm. And I just thought, this part where Elon Musk was saying, "Got to get the Starship into orbit," like repeatedly, that just made me think of that moment in Aviator.
I mean, it's not too far from, I think, what Elon actually is like. I'm betting.
I do think it's a weirdly similar.
It's like a compulsion, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Like he feels compelled to like pursue these things so doggedly, and you know, spend his own psyche in his manic pursuit of whatever he's doing. But anywho, yeah. So now we're at AI for cars.
Okay. Yeah. So heretofore the Tesla self-driving car team has been using this very complicated, just like manually written if-else logic, basically.
Yeah.
It sounds like,
which is crazy.
Well, you know, it's probably much more sophisticated than that. But you know, this one guy has this just crazy idea to like use a neural network. Which, you know, it is so funny how in retrospect it just feels like it just feels so obvious. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it is. But I mean, this was 2023, and this was kind of a novel way of solving this problem. And
I mean, I think if you think in the context of it, you would be like, we're not going to delegate our driving responsibility to a black box that we can't introspect, right? It's like we want to, this is, you know, pinnacle of safety. We want to understand every line of this code and how it's going to respond in the situations. Like, I think the traditional conception is like, yeah, that's what you would want to do to maximize safety. Yeah. And that's just not right, I mean, in terms of like the results.
Exactly. Yeah. I do think it's a weird mental shift to realize that a neural net can be like way, way better
Right.
than like very carefully crafted rules-based logic.
But it's also funny because we've learned this lesson like how many times at this point.
Yeah. I just think it's one of those things that's so counterintuitive that you just need to have it drilled into your head. It's like statistics, like human beings just don't have the like, built-in capability to understand stats. So you need to move from your visceral mind into your like slow mind and like intellectually process the information.
I think it's like there's this phenomenon where people feel safer when they're in control. And like if you're driving the car, even if this is like I think this is a hurdle that self-driving cars are going to need to get over, but it's like if you're driving the car, you feel safer than if someone else is driving the car. Mm-hmm. And I think this is that phenomenon, just taken to the next level where it's like, oh, like we as humans are completely in control of this versus like, okay, we have to delegate to this nebulous like learning process essentially.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
That discomfort comes from.
And it's funny too, because I think young people today will have the opposite take. Because this is also a cultural thing. I think young people won't trust humans. They'll be like, why is it not an AI flying my plane? AIs are way better than humans. And
I just always come back to like handwritten assembly. It's like if someone came to me and was like, oh, like I hand wrote these 100,000 lines of assembly instead of like, or like, oh yeah, I had this C program and I hand wrote, like translated it into the assembly code and I got all these optimizations. I would be like, there's no fucking way that you did a better job than the assembler, I think that's going to happen for code and security and like it's like, wait, you tried to hand write this, you didn't have an AI like a security AI evaluated. I think we're not that far from that being the case.
100%. I think in a lot of cases we are already there, and it's insane. There's a lot of vibe coding happening at work these days, and I'm like so impressed with what people can throw together in like 10 minutes. Yeah. And there are cases where it's like that's complete crap, but there's also cases where it's like that's utterly amazing.
Yeah.
But in any case, this dude's name was Schroff. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was the engineer that was sort of championing this concept, using a neural net for the self-driving. And evidently he was like sort of the D'Artagnan of the three musketeers. He was like the fourth musketeer. So he was this young whippersnapper. But yeah, I guess they were using NVIDIA chips to train this thing. So this could have been an early indication to buy NVIDIA. But they also had this supercomputer called Dojo, which I don't know what became of Dojo. This was the first I'd heard of it. But presumably they're now using Dojo to like train this full self-driving. I liked a couple things they mentioned. One is Elon sort of created this metric of miles per intervention. Mm-hmm. And what he would do is every time they were discussing full self-driving, he would be like, what is the current miles per intervention? Like he was sort of laser focusing everyone on this top line metric, which I think was probably a powerful, sort of motivator within this organization. And another thing to mention is that this system only started working after 1 million videos, which is maybe another reason why there was a lot of skepticism. But it's also a testament to how these neural networks work, where it's sort of like it'll be crappy, but then when you provide it enough information, it suddenly starts being amazing. And I think we're seeing other cases of that in AI, like all over the place.
This is a very real phenomenon. I watched a video on YouTube a little while ago where they demonstrated this like very starkly, where they showed that they trained a system, and it was a very simple problem. It was like modulo arithmetic. Mm-hmm. They trained a system for like a very long time, and they saw zero generalization of the ability. Like they could solve the problems in the training set. They could not solve any of the problems outside of the training set. Yeah. And then like, but the progress was like completely flatlined, and then at some
Right.
point it just like rockets up, and then the performance becomes perfect. And like
Yeah.
there is this moment where it learns it. Like it actually learns the modulo relationship, and it actually expresses that in the neurons.
Yes. It's so weird.
And it's pretty wild. And I think that this is actually a phenomenon that we see repeated across different domains, where after a certain point, performance just starts to skyrocket, essentially.
Yeah. And I think this is why a lot of people working in AI are of the belief that, like, if we just multiply the training data by a few orders of magnitude, that will just be the singularity. Like, we don't even need to change the underlying algorithm. We just need way, way more data.
We just need 2 or 3 more internets worth of data. And,
Exactly. But it's interesting because, I mean, I'm naive. I don't know enough about this to like make a determination one way or the other. And there's plenty of evidence that there are diminishing returns. But I think it's also just unknown enough that, a lot of people think maybe that is the way. But yeah, and speaking of AI, the next chapter is called AI for Humans, which...
all right, yeah, let's...
Oh, did you have anything else?
Well, I did actually want to say, like, so two points. One last thing I wanted to say about the AI for cars. This is one thing that has surprised me about Tesla's performance. Like, I always thought this was going to be a superpower, and they talk about this in the chapter. Like, this is going to be a super advantage for Tesla because they have all these real cars driving on real roads using these like self-driving, and they can tell when humans intervene. And like, I guess I'm really surprised that they haven't overtaken Waymo. It still seems like Waymo is still the leader of the pack in terms of like truly full self-driving.
Yeah. It is interesting.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it goes back to their underlying approach of just using cameras and not having all of the detection. Because Waymo does have way more sort of data that's available to the system. And that, that maybe that makes a difference.
The last thing I was going to say is actually like we're kind of, as per usual, these chapters took up more time than I suspected. So I'm wondering if maybe we cut it there. And then, as big of a fanfare as I made about this being the last episode, we leave the last 2 because we do have the 2 more chapters, unless those are not very big ones.
No, actually, I think this is a good idea because I want to be able to spend a little bit of time on some of the material in the last few chapters because there's some interesting stuff. So yeah, let's call it there. Great idea.
All right, John, I will see you next time for AI for Humans.
See you next time, Matt.